Welcome to the Leadership Library and Bob's Book Club. I've just finished recording a short tutorial video all about checklists, and that got me thinking, surely somewhere I've got a book behind me that mentions checklists, and I have. Welcome to Bob's Book Club. Now behind me I've got well over 1,000 books, and there's one book in particular that has kind of suddenly come to the forefront of my memory, and it's this book here, the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande. The Checklist Manifesto, How to Get Things Right, is the subtitle. For those of you who know me, you'll know that I've got a spreadsheet where I keep and I catalogue all my books. So just to kind of humour people who know me, in the spreadsheet I've got 1,080 books catalogued. Most of them are behind me. This particular one, in alphabetical order, it ranks at 735 in alphabetical order because it's the Checklist Manifesto. It was published in 2010 and I actually bought it in 2015. I've got it catalogued under management by Profile Books. It comes in at 194 pages. So I'll always list the number of pages in a book because I find that a really useful teller. Anything less than 200 is good. That's about a 200-page book. Anything less than 100 pages, brilliant. And that really floats my boat. The shorter the book, the better. I've also got a little 12 scholar summary. So in here I've got a thought-provoking book on dealing with complexity. So sometimes I'll forget about the books that I've read, so I always leave just a little one-liner or two sentences to help kind of jog my memory. So thought-provoking about dealing with complexity. I've then got a numerical scoring system. I've always been scoring books on a scale of 1 to 5, and I've been doing that for 20 years. So this one I've actually rated 5 out of 5, so it must have been good when I read it. And I've also got who recommended the book. Sometimes it's Amazon. Sometimes I'll kind of stumble upon them in Waterstones. Often I'm actually asking people now for recommendations, or people will gift me a book and therefore it's been recommended by them. This particular one was recommended by Laszlo Bock, who used to work at Google. He was the head of operations, and in fact he's written a brilliant book somewhere over here, and it's called Work Rules, and that's all about business transformation and about getting people on side, and the fact that in Google recruitment was just a crazy place to work when you're recruiting thousands of people per day. Anyway, we're talking about this book here, the Checklist Manifesto. So I read this book 6 years ago. That's when I read it. I haven't opened it since. But there's 3 stories that kind of stick in my head from when I first read it. And it was all about a doctor surgeon, a aircraft pilot, and spaceships. And the key theme which kind of goes through all these stories is all about how they use checklists. So if you can imagine a doctor's surgery, it can be a complicated procedure, and you need to make sure everything's sterilised and there's equipment laid out and there's people. Then you've got to make sure the patient is sedated and is prepared for the operation. In times gone by, when science wasn't what it was, we didn't have checklists, and it relied on doctors' memories to get everything right and the procedures right. But over time, there was one particular person who, I can't remember his name, but is quoted in here, who developed a checklist that would help doctors, surgeons out when they're operating on people. And that checklist was an absolute game changer when it came to saving people's lives and actually making the success of operations far more successful. So that story's in here. The other one is about aircraft pilots, and when the plane is sat on the runway, or before it sits on the runway, they go through, and it shouldn't come as a surprise, a very simple checklist, or a very detailed checklist we hope, that make sure the plane is correctly fueled, has gone through all their pre-flight checks before it takes off. And then there's another checklist before they land that they run through to make sure everything's in place, landing gear down, etc. And then the third story was all about rocket ships and spaceships. And as you can imagine, it's aeroplanes, but to another level. So a real complex, complicated process. And again, they use checklists to make sure that everything has meticulously been gone through to ensure that the spacecraft is safe to fly. So 3 stories. It's also been endorsed by Malcolm Gladwell. So that's quite. It's been years since I've read a book so powerful and so thought-provoking. That's Malcolm Gladwell. Brilliant book. So just kind of to recap, if you're working in any complex or complicated process and you want to simplify things, make things easy for yourself, make sure you get things right and you don't make any mistakes, then this book is definitely worth the read. And if you don't get around to that, just start by making a checklist. It's what I've been doing in terms of making these videos and the content for 12 Scholars, either for the podcasts, the journal, these videos and our tutorial courses. So checklists can really come in. Very simple, anyone can do them, but they can make such a difference and make sure we're on that path to excellence and making sure we get things right. Hopefully that's useful. So it's a little book here, and I'll do a few more book reviews like this coming up. Look forward to seeing you then.